Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
Okay, and I was just sitting there like, meditating, I'm like. Yeah. Oh, I heard that so many people like, let's just go to the goal, like. Put the shoulder into it. I'd like to replace, I don't know. You want to finish the trees and you're in effect, right? Okay, so you can, oh, you can grab the whole pile.
How are you? That's good. Okay, that's fine, do that. Yeah, I think it's last night. Yeah, that's what I understand. That's why the golf course was a lot of mine. Well, thank you. Quite a while, yeah. My Adam master, when he was great. But you now, it's completely 2009. Oh, Mark. No, I think Nancy said she came out to pray today. This week is not in the future. You can part. People who have either are failing members of the might not have to. It's like anything you order more time, it's free on. Anyway. Yeah. Yeah, and he's also very did they use the one? Yeah. No, it was I won't know. Or I won't be anywhere for anybody to tell me. Oh. What is that? Oh, that's the only way I'm going to. Well, it was more family members from there, so kind of Henry. I think what we're not trying to do. Of course, we did that. To the woman. He was our best helper. Boy, that support us. But you better wait. You better. I hope that joy longer. And now I think Other than that. Yeah. Because it's like it's really cool. I believe so. I think one of them is half played, and then the daughter actually did the one of them might be half, I think Kevin knows better than that. But it makes me remember, and every time something like that, it makes me remember when this is the first show there, well, the one was a nurse, the other one was a very nice. What's
Yep, turns green.
Check 9743.
I have to turn my head to talk to the.
This will help. So we have new mics tonight. If you'll notice, they're all on, but they're all red. If you tap the button, they'll turn green and then they become active and hot. If you press the button again, it'll go red and then they're off. Okay, so if it's red, it's off. If it's green, it's on. They are very unidirectional mics. So if you talk away from the microphone, it won't pick up, but if you're talking right into it, it works really well. So just gotta make sure that you're talking in front of it.
Just one more hot tip for you guys. When you talk on the mic, speak into the mic, because if you move, the mic loses you. Yeah, I just want to remind, listen, I'm checking for understanding.
Test, test, test. You gotta. Test. Test, test. All right.
Jenny.
Lisa's not coming. Lisa's not coming. She just texted Craig and I earlier. Is everybody else ready? You guys ready down there? Now, you guys ready down here? Sure. Okay, we're going to start the meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, we're going to start the meeting off for a moment of silence. We just learned recently that Bonnie Bean, a longtime Athens teacher, passed away last evening. So we'll do a moment of silence for Ms. Bean. Thank you. Thank you all. Thanks for coming tonight. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Thanks for coming out with us. We will start off our meeting with committee reports. We have Finance and Operations Committee. Who would like to report out for Finance and Operations?
I will.
Thank you.
Am I speaking correctly? Is that okay? All right. The baseball seating project that we had out for bids. The bids are due this Thursday at 2 p.m. And we did have 2 or 3 contractors come to take specs. So we're anticipating that there will be bids coming in. The 2008 GMC Savannah, the original Catmobile, was originally taken in to get some bids for bodywork and other. And it's our recommendation to simply put it out as excess property for a bid as soon as possible. And our bids for pianos, we received 0. So we still have 8 pianos. Anybody that wants them, let us know. That's it.
Are there any organizations?
We could certainly ask, but to be honest with you, we're the organization that usually gets them donated to. So, but we can ask for sure.
Let's try.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get rid of pianos.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any ideas other than disposing of them.
Okay. So we still have 8 pianos. Okay. Thank you very much. Personnel and Policy Committee. We have a lot of policies tonight. Who is reporting out to that?
All right,
You ready?
all right, everyone. Buckle up. We had a lot. So all of these are available on board docs. So please feel free, and I encourage you all to go and read them. There were a number that are second read and should be voted on next week. We had no additional changes, and there weren't any real changes to those at first read. So those seem like they are ready to go, but please take a look and let us know if you have any questions. We continued with our review where we are working our way through all the policies to make sure that they are up to date. And so we did review 209, 210, 210-1, 211, 212, 213, 214, 215, 216, and 216.1, which we made a couple small changes that were really to definitions, and those were things recommended by PSBA. Again, you can look at those, and the changes are in bold on the documents. We also received a large number of policies that were first reads from PSBA that did require us to make some selections to them. I'm going to, you can look at all of those, and you'll be able to see them all in board docs. But there was one that we just wanted to call out in particular because it's quite a long one. It's policy 251. And it's the title of it, Students Experiencing Homelessness, Foster Care, and Other Educational Instability. PSBA are recommending a lot of additional language and changes to that just to sort of further clarify the support that these students receive. There were a number of options that we needed to, select. What I can say is the edits that we made were really sort of designed to be in the best interest of a child that is experiencing or has experienced educational instability. So we really sort of wanted to make sure that we are offering those children the best support that we can. So you'll be able to read through all of these policies as well, and see what those edits look like. But otherwise they were solid. There were two policies that we looked at as well, 917 and 918, which are related to Title I and parental involvement and engagement with that program. And really the only change on 918, it's up for first read, are new attachments that have been added, which are just the forms that show parents have gone through the requirements and the information with the school. So it's just to be able to keep a record of that, which is a Title I requirement. So those are, we just wanted to note those. Again, no changes to the policy itself. It was really just the attachments that were being added to it. And then the only final thing I want to note is because there were so many policies, there were a number of policies from PSBA 1810.1 through 1810.4, which are about transportation and busing. We actually, because we had so many to go through, we've moved those to next month to review them properly, just because we ran out of time. So we wanted to make sure we gave those the due diligence they required. That is everything. Anything, Kathy Jo?
Thank you very much. That's a lot. Do we have a lot left, or is that, do we have a lot? We have a lot left? Okay. Good.
Christine, can you give us kind of an update on where we're at and what we have to do yet? Just
Yes, we're on the 200. But we all have almost. So you probably have, we could do that many probably for the rest of the year. I won't make it quite so. But I am including the PSBA. I am including the PSBA recommendations within those. That's why there's so many.
okay.
Okay.
Well, we're further ahead than we were last year.
Yeah, and we do appreciate just the process that we have, not only that we are doing all these, but actually you do make sure that we get them in advance, so we have a chance to read them before, which, I mean, we went through a lot tonight, but we'd all had a chance to read through them, so we were able to move pretty quickly, so thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions for Personnel and Policy Committee? Okay, Curriculum Instruction and Technology Committee, I believe Mr. Toscano is going to be reporting out.
Good evening. That's going to be a tough report to follow, Natalie, so thank you for that. We spent most of our time tonight speaking about the new proposed courses for the high school. There's about 10 that we talked about. I will, and we talked in the committee at the end about how if we want to go through all of them tonight. But what I think we decided on was I'll have Christine email everybody all the proposals tomorrow, and then you guys can look at those between now and next Tuesday. And if you had questions, we could answer them at that point rather than have you guys go through that without having seen those actual course offerings yet. The one thing I will tell you is the proposed new courses, there would be no need for additional staff. So I can tell you that at this point. So it would not, there would not be an increase in cost to the district. And one of the things that we're really trying to do with those courses is balance some offerings for both our college-bound students and our non-college-bound students, our workforce or military students. And I think the high school did a good job of bringing some good offerings in that respect. So you'll get that hopefully tomorrow. I'll get that to you, Christine, either tonight or tomorrow morning. We talked about real quick PSSA and Keystone preparation. It's getting to be that time of the year very quickly. And we also talked briefly about today was the last day of the science collaborative that the IU was offering, that I took teachers from the schools down to look at the new standards that are coming into Pennsylvania and how we can make sure that we're ready for those changes in the next 2 years. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
If they have any questions about the courses, they can email you, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't feel like you need to wait till next week. If you have questions at the time when you look at that, feel free to email and or we can talk about them next week too. So, yep. Thank you, John.
All right. Extracurricular, as I run a meeting, Mr. Rudin, extracurricular?
We meet next week before the voting meeting.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent's report, Mr. Stage.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll keep it brief. Thank you for giving a moment of silence to Bonnie Bean, a longtime educator, touched a lot of lives, and Mrs. Rhodes sent a very touching message to her staff today that I would also echo. The only other comment I'd like to make is the Athens community's hearts are with the Troy School District and the Troy community as they go through a very tragic time with an automobile accident that caused the life of one of their teachers to end, and it's impacting a lot of families there. So our hearts go out to them during this difficult time. So, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no representative for the Blast IU. Mr. Owen, the NTCC.
Yeah, a few topics tonight. A couple quick ones first. The Joint Operating Committee last month reviewed and approved the course catalog for next school year, which is going to include the same 13 courses that are offered today at the Career Center. So no additions, no removals of courses for next year. Another significant item is the welding program at the Career Center is in the early stages of assessing an addition where they can actually move the students outside to give them more room as part of the welding program. Currently looking at the initial stages of getting bids from local contractors. It'll basically be like a 24 by 36 addition that they're going to put on board to give the students more space, but also give them a different environment to work in, actually sort of an outside environment, right? Outdoor non-conditioned space. This is actually one of the last projects, if not the last project, to be funded by ESSER funds at the Career Center. So that will likely take place probably sometime in the next few months. Next item of note is the Skills USA competition that took place a couple of weeks ago. There were 40 students from the Career Center that participated, 9 of which were from here in Athens. Out of those 40 that participated, 19 qualified for states, and of those 19, 5 were from here in Athens. And I just want to read the names to recognize those 5 folks. That's Anna Davis in restaurant services, William Barlow in carpentry, Brandon Jennings in electrical, Garrett Thetka in plumbing, and Aiden Wills in cybersecurity. So those 5 will continue on to states in Hershey, I think in April, I believe, if I got it right. So hopefully we'll come back in a couple of months with an update on some state champions there. Lastly, and this is later in the agenda tonight and for vote next week, but is the NTCC budget for 2023 through 2024. I'll just give a quick update right now. I can answer any questions when it's on the agenda later. But overall, the Career Center budget is increasing by about $145,000 for next year. Athens will see about $44,000 of that increase. The primary drivers of the increase are salaries as well as professional services. A few other things are going down, but those are the 2 main items that are driving that overall increase. And just a reminder, our share of that budget is really driven by a 2-factor formula. 75% of the cost is fixed based on our student population. 25% is based on the number of students we've sent this year. That's driving the cost estimate for next year. So I'm happy to take any questions later when we get to that point of the agenda. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say, I think I looked at the NTC budget that's in here. And I think it's great the way it's broken down. To see our actual cost, what the other districts are paying, what we're paying, just the overall being able to understand where the money's going, unlike one of the other budgets that we received. I think it's an excellent presentation. I don't know who put it together,
Yeah.
but it's very well
Yeah,
done.
that's Michelle Wells. She's amazing when it comes to
It
that.
actually, like I said, you can actually see where the money's going, who it's coming from, where it's going, not just general and others.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
well.
I'll
put
pass it
together.
along. I'll see Michelle this Thursday. I'll let her know. Thank you, Kathy, Joe.
Okay, Mr. Jones, PSBA. Okay. Mr. Barrett, Solicitor's report, please.
I have several items of general concern. The court ruled last week in that case that's been around for probably 10 years regarding equality in educational expenses. That rule that the state's funding formula for education is basically unconstitutional. This was a case that was basically driven by the Coalition of Rural Schools. The problem with the decision is there is no relief granted by the court. They basically said it's unconstitutional and they've thrown it back to the legislature. We have no idea what it'll do, but at least it's possibly a step in the right direction. Just to refresh you, the basis of this case is the fact that the school districts with higher real estate assessment obviously have more money and can spend more money on education. The difference in state funding is over $10,000 per student, depending on where you live. So it is basically shows quite a bit of difference in extra or co-curricular activities, particularly, and class size. Pardon me?
Is that affecting us? Like how, is that something we need to act on or?
No, there's nothing to act on. It's just to be informed. I think it would probably affect us in a positive sense should the state ever fund differently. There's a second political arm that has been active for probably the last 10 years, was to take away the heavy burden on real estate taxes. And if that would happen, one method, of course, is that the state would totally fund it by income tax, which is probably a little dangerous, and our funding would be out of your control. That's part of the problem. So we never, we hope this is a positive step. We never know. The devil's in the details, however, as it always is. And secondly, I've been asked to work on a couple matters regarding some intergovernmental relationships with a couple municipalities within our district, which I will not be specific about until we have some type of a meeting of the minds regarding that, so we could act on them. Third, I wanted to mention that the districts had me working on several student discipline matters, which hopefully we can work out in the next week or sooner. Lastly, I wanted to mention I received a email from Dave Unkebeck, who has been our bond counsel for probably the last 35 years, indicating that he was retiring the end of the year. He's certainly been a great service to us. Dave was a real stickler, and because of his oversight, we never got ourselves in trouble like some districts did borrowing money. And lastly, our PSCA head attorney, Stuart Nade, has announced his retirement in the very near future. And we'll miss him. Those of you that have been around a long time, like Chuck, will obviously remember that we used to work with other attorneys ahead of him, but he's His father was head of the VOTEC in what used to be the VOTEC in Williamsport, and now it's Penn College. His father was president there for years. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Any questions for Mr. Barrett? We'll move on to the financials. We'll have some discussion on the financials. You can see it's the listing of the bills, secretary's report, middle school, high school, the IU proposed general operations budget, the Blast IU proposed general operations budget resolution, as well as the NTCC preliminary budget and the NTCC preliminary budget resolution. This is where Mr. Owen, is there any discussion you want to talk about with the NTCC?
I have nothing further unless there's any questions, but as Kathy Jo mentioned, the detailed report is included in the agenda, but it's broken out quite well, but.
Yeah, very well detailed report.
There's no discussion. We'll move on. Agenda is quite long this time. Personnel. Any discussion on personnel? We have some retirements, some resignations, some temporary contracts. We have a ton of athletic volunteers. Athletic contracts. And supplemental grant funded contracts. Any discussion on this?
So with these positions in the athletic contracts, that fills all of our spring coaching positions.
That's correct.
When does the spring season start? March?
Usually the first week of March.
We'll move on to number 7, contracts and agreements. This is the amendment to the superintendent contract and a superintendent contract renewal for the 2024 to 2029. Any discussion on these? Okay. We will move forward to policies. A through double F. Any discussion on the policies that Mrs. Smart has so eloquently described earlier?
So in a nutshell, Natalie, as you just said, there are basically no changes, right? Everything was basically taken either as is or from the PSBA.
Yeah, at the PSBA ones, the new ones, that were first reads, there were items that we had to select, but there was not anything that.
Anything
was-
material really. It's just-
No, it actually just it clarified them further, made definitions.
The only other thing is, I think, Christine, they would like to omit 810.1 through 810.4,
So double A through
double D.
double D.
Is Z another one?
The transportation one?
All trade, oh, yeah, so 810 as well.
All the 810s.
She went through 8, 10. It was a straightforward one, so we can either park them all until next month or 8, 10, we did go through tonight.
Strike that, keep 810.
So double A through double D.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. We'll move on to curriculum and instruction items. We have the FBLA State Leadership Conference overnight trip request in April. Saturday detention program memo from Mr. Stage. We have the new high school courses, which are C through J, that Mr. Toscano said we'll get an email for tomorrow describing those. But if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them as well.
And you said there'd be no additional staff needed, correct, for these courses?
Mr. Stage, could you talk us through a little bit more of the Saturday detention memo?
With pleasure. Thank you. As we work through our systems of holding students accountable for their behaviors, the recommendation that I have before you guys is to create another level of accountability that we, puts students on their value time, allows us to work on behavior correction. And this would be something that would be only at the discretion, used at the discretion of the principals as a level of consequence that may be prior to an out of school or in school suspension for repeated behaviors, and an opportunity for them to just have another level for them to manage the accountability with expected behaviors as well. So I did try to give a detailed memo. I did try to give the expectations for behavior during that time period. It is 3 hours on a Saturday. It'll happen every other Saturday. If no children are selected to be in at the time, or if there's only one, then that one child will be shifted to another Saturday. So there'll be more than one or two. I'm thinking maybe 4 or 5 would be a good number to start with. This is simply a pilot. We'd like to try this for the remainder of this year, have the admin team debrief on the success, whether it proved successful, whether it didn't, revise, edit, or try something completely new. But we are seeing, behaviors at our middle school and our high school, and this would only be for the middle school and high school. This is not something we would do at the elementary level. We have seen repeated behaviors, and at times the consequence doesn't seem to want to change that. So just trying to give another opportunity for principals at their discretion to assign this and to create a partnership with the parents as well in changing some of those behaviors. Did I miss anything?
Parents don't want to participate.
So that could possibly happen. If not, then we'll elevate the level of consequence to let them know that the Saturday detention is important. It is required. And if that doesn't happen, then the consequence will either be increased or changed to something more on the line of out of school suspension or in school suspension, which I think would be more prohibitive, more restrictive. Are there any other questions on Saturday detention? We did use the word detention deliberately. We didn't want it to be Saturday school. We didn't want it to think that there was a positive playtime or to be used for tutoring solely. There may be some of that happening. Detention sounds like there's a consequence being had for actions. And I want to be able to, I want to give enough leeway to the building principals that they can prescribe it at their discretion.
How are we gonna measure that this is working to report
So
back?
first of all, we'll look at, see how many repeat offenders we had, see what kind of numbers we had. We could talk about whether that they perceived it to be beneficial, see if the climate and culture in the buildings change among the cohorts, the grade levels that of the kids that are being impacted. This is not every kid in our district. This is probably a small percentage that, do create disruptive environments. And, we're trying to focus on, being more accountable to ourselves, which means we have to hold our students accountable, which means we need to create less disruptive classrooms so that students are not distracted from their learning. And another thing is it really takes away from their valued time, which is very important when you're trying to change behaviors.
And Mr. Stage for staffing this, so it'll be the administrators from the respective schools.
Yes. Yes.
They'll be responsible for ensuring it's staffed.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis.
Yeah. It'll be the responsibility of the building administrators. I would also even offer Mr. Cummings as the director of special education, myself or Mr. Toscano to fill in those roles at times. We wouldn't be primary, of course, it would be secondary. But the other valuable part of that is this time is an opportunity for the building administrators to develop a relationship with those students that may help change those behaviors as well. It's 3 hours. It's not playtime. It's to be quiet. There are going to be very explicit, non-negotiable expectations during that time period. And so it'll be an important time for the building administrator and the student. I wanted to focus only on having the building administrators do it this year. And if it's successful and we want to continue, then, and we see that there might be an opportunity to offer it up to other, like maybe professional staff to sit in those situations, then we will. But I really wanted to keep it under like a control environment for this time.
Any other questions? Well, any of those? We got a bunch on there. We have the courses, the Saturday detention, and the conference overnight.
I have a question about the FBLA State Leadership Conference.
Okay.
So there's 20 students that will be going?
Yeah, 20 that qualified. Several years ago, we established qualifications for what students could attend the state conference, because at times we were having upwards of 50 students go. So now they have to, in a regional or local competition, they have to be in the top 3 to go, top 2. Yeah.
I see we're sharing the charter bus to Sarah. Where's there's 4 nights in a hotel, 2 nights in a hotel.
Yes. The night of the 16th and night of the 17th.
Are they fundraising for that or is that?
So that's
I
something that,
didn't see it on the field trip. request.
yeah, we have a fund set aside for the state competitions. We set aside money for all of our clubs to do certain state events. So it'll be funded through that. They have fundraised in the past. And we felt like that we should have just set aside funds. We pay for athletic groups to go to states and things like that. So we thought that would be necessary that we also fund our school sponsored clubs and activities. to
And
go to
these are
states.
the 3 that will be chaperoning.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Can you tell me what FBLA stands for?
Future Business Leaders of America.
Thank you.
Phew. I was worried there for a second.
I was too.
I watched Scholarship Challenge this weekend, so I'm ready. Like I feel like I'm ready to play. Let's go.
The students went to Keystone College about a month ago
Yes.
and had to take their given tests or make their given presentations with the region. And at the region, the top 2 in each category qualifies for the state competition.
Yeah.
Which then can qualify for nationals, which is in Atlanta this summer in June.
Yeah, and we have historically every few years sent kids to nationals too. So yeah. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Up next, we have transportation. We have the updated driver list. Any discussion on the updated driver list? Okay. We have no building and grounds right now. Under 12 other, we have the Athens Area School District Health and Safety Plan. Is there any discussion on the health and safety plan?
Yeah, I've got a couple items on that, some recommended updates that I'd like to propose, or at least, see if there's interest. And I was just looking through it and, I think there's a few things in this plan that's a little bit overcome by events and probably no longer relevant. In section 3A, which is universal and correct wearing of masks, we still make a statement that says we recommend and encourage. I don't think that's true. I don't think we do that anymore. I'd recommend that we strike that out, and that would just keep 2 bullets in that section. The other area I'd recommend some changes is in section E. I get some questions or some changes. There's I think bullet 2 that says we'll still report positive COVID-19 cases to the PD and PA DOH. Is that still required? Is there still a requirement for us to do that?
Great question. I think the only requirement is if you have to shut a school down because of COVID that you have to report to the state. I have had no cases reported to me this year. That does not mean we've not had to deal with COVID on a minimal basis this year. We just have not had to add it to the level that it had to be reported to me.
Right, as far as the overhead associated with tracking it and reporting it.
Yeah,
and all
we
that
don't
stuff.
track anything basically anymore.
Okay. So that'd be my suggestion, is that if it's not a requirement, let's not document it as such anymore. I think then maybe that some of this is all overcome then based on your comment there, Craig, but I would even say too, like where it says that, we're requiring face coverings for days 6 through 10 upon return. I don't think we're requiring that anymore. I would suggest we remove that. I also suggest we remove the section about household close contacts, since we're not tracking that anymore. Right?
Correct.
I would suggest we remove that.
Are we contact tracing at all, Craig? I mean, to help Michael out a little bit. here.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to look right out here in the crowd because
help you out.
all of them are
Yeah.
here
I
tonight.
want to get the whole plan. if we
And
could.
just by a raise of hands, are any of you contact tracing this year? That should be a definitive answer for everybody.
Do we need the letter E?
Yes, letter E has to be part of the ESSA requirement because this is the form that you have to use. So you do still need letter E. What's in letter E,
need a
you can
bullet there.
change.
Yeah, I think I think the first bullet probably covers it, right? And E,
Chapter code.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
So you're suggesting we get rid of the other bullets?
From that bullet down.
Yep, and I think we just keep that top bullet. That would probably meet the intent. Because it's referring to the law. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And then that addresses my last one I had, so I won't bring that one up, but so yeah, so basically then I guess I'm recommending we just, for letter E, we get rid of all the bullets except for the first one. And for letter A, we remove the second bullet around face coverings.
So if somebody tests positive for COVID, you're not gonna require them the 5 days that you're suggesting?
Was that not covered in that first bullet?
I don't think it is. Is it?
No, so what it says that within the code that was referring to there, I don't know if the code actually gives a
I don't
a
think
time
the code
period,
gives any-
but it says something about like, no symptoms. I'm not sure I've seen COVID added in the actual code, but it says basically not returning. I think it's like fever free. I'd have to look at the specifics of that, but it basically covers any sickness, right? That you can't come back unless you've been symptom free for a certain amount of time.
So with all sicknesses in our district, the flu, whatever, anytime a child experiences a fever, they're not allowed to return until they're fever free for 24 hours without medication. That's a standard rule for all illnesses.
Is it in there?
And
Yeah.
if it goes to the doctor and the doctor says you can't come back for 5 days.
We typically honor the
we have
doctor's
to do the
notes.
Doctor's request, correct?
There's no requirement to test,
No,
but if somebody tests, I mean, that's typically the rule, right?
Yep.
5 days is still the rule.
yeah, and typically that's what happens. They get notified that when they test, they should
I mean,
quarantine
they
or
don't
isolate
test
for
them
5
at the
days.
School, right? Nobody
No.
tests them at the school. It would be if
No.
they're testing at home. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
only time it's gonna happen.
At home or prior to a procedure, I think is what they do at the Guthrie now. So that's the only situations that really happen. To be honest with you, we have a few parents that do report to us that their child has COVID. I think they do that because we mark them medically excused for that period of time. A lot of times kids are just sick and they're not showing up. I'm not trying to downplay it or downgrade it, but from the we actually had this conversation last Tuesday and, COVID has not been a priority discussion in our buildings this year. I'm not saying that it's not there, but we're also dealing with the flu, a wicked stomach bug. We've had hand, foot and mouth this year. We have RSV that went crazy this year. And we also have strep now currently that is pretty much destroying our buildings. So
It's not, yeah,
COVID isn't our
it's everything.
focus. Is that accurate, guys? John, you wouldn't, so.
I do have one question. Is there accommodations under Pennsylvania Education Code for extended non-truancy still with COVID? Does
No,
anyone know?
no,
So if you miss 30 days because you
Still need a doctor's
six
note.
times, are you considered truant? past
you
your
are,
10
unless you
days?
get a doctor's note, you still have to go through the SA.
So as long as it's a
process.
doctor's note,
Yeah.
they're taking
Yeah,
care of.
and
Okay.
it's, so what the state has done in terms of truancy, they basically said you can't miss more than 10% of your school year. So 18 days is the magic number. Correct. Yep.
Is there any discussion on the recommendations that Mr. Owen just suggested?
I don't have a kid.
You got
But
that?
if a parent came to us and said, my kid tested positive, we would make them stay home 5 days.
We would ask them to.
So why take it out if that's what we're gonna do? If a parent is
We're
coming.
still, my personal recommendation is we remove it. If we're still doing it as a school, it should be represented in the plan.
We still do
right.
ask, like, we do still say, okay, we'll see you in 5 days.
Okay.
And
then-
we do put down as excuse.
But we're not requiring testing. It's up to the parents to test.
No.
It's up to them to
Right.
report.
Yeah.
If a parent comes to the school and says, my kid has COVID, we're gonna make them stay home.
Yeah, so if that's still the policy, then. they would
Yeah,
reflect
so
that.
if you're thinking about last year, we would have symptomatic kids sent home to be tested. I don't know if that's necessarily, we're sending kids home. but we're sending them home because they're ill.
Yeah, if they have fever or other symptoms, just like we've always done,
Yeah.
right?
We do ask some parent, like if their parents are coming to us, say my kid tested positive for COVID. Okay, we might have a conversation with them, kind of assessing when that started or when they tested, so that we can have an idea of like when they could possibly return. Most times by the time we find out, they're coming back within the next day or two. We're usually finding out on the third or fourth day usually, because it's notoriously a weekend that this happens. So, but we do still ask them to, just sit home for 5 days. So, that's probably the only thing I would say at bullet number 3, if you want to keep that, and then the rest about, or at least until they return, until they're fever-free without medication. We don't require face coverings anymore, so I think that could be something that you
So
could
keep third
modify.
bullet and sort of strike out that
Yeah,
last piece of third bullet.
if that would be so, okay.
Okay, so take that piece out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're taking it out.
And
if you're
I'll
taking
make,
out of A, it makes
if you
sense to
got,
take out that.
depending on this conversation, I'll make all the edits and get it to Christine.
Any other discussion? I just want to make sure we get it straight with Christine though, before we go, and Craig. So we took out A, the second bullet, face coverings. We took out letter E, the second bullet. We kept the third bullet, but we took out upon return, face coverings will be required for 6 to 10 days. We'll strike that. And we'll take out the last 2 bullets.
Yep.
Okay.
Is there any agreement with that? Works.
And are we covered then under the code that either they need a test or a doctor's note or whatever,
They'll be fine. Yep.
that they'll be
Yep.
fine with that? Okay.
Can I just check on that last bullet?
Sure.
Students and staff who do not test positive but exhibit symptoms per code will be excluded from school if they were free without medication. I mean, that goes without saying.
That goes without, it's part of our policy without being part of the ESSER plan.
All students in quarantine will be provided with access to learning materials and support. So is that still happening? Like, so if someone does go out for 5 days, are they provided? Because if so, I'd like to leave that bullet in to make sure. that they
Yeah,
are.
so they are probably like, so last year we had a teacher available for them. This year we don't, but the teachers still provide them with materials while they're out for an extended period of
Any
time.
other illness.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think it would make sense to keep that in there, just that final bullet. It's.
The last sentence.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's, our best practice as well anyway, but.
The only part we'd have to take out is the learning loss teacher, because we don't have that this year. On the
Yep.
second page.
Yeah.
Yes,
I-
yeah, we can amend like the language there.
Yep.
Yeah, I will amend that.
I just think it's nice to like note that we will provide them with materials if they are out.
Support from the teacher, probably. Just from the teacher.
Are we still doing B, physical distancing? Are we still?
Oh, sorry. Let me see.
Which one? Which one are you
Modifying
talking-
facilities to allow for physical distancing, use of cohorts and potting.
So the question is, the statement says where possible. Yeah, where possible, we promote physical distancing even before COVID. If we had the space to spread out, we would. I don't think that has something that hinders our actions.
Okay.
And it doesn't limit our actions. So, but I do appreciate that. No, we're not setting kids 6 feet apart. There's no shields, there's no plexiglass. I have a really cool tree house right now.
Sit down with the piano.
Yeah, so.
It's a plexiglass. It's almost like, a sky bridge. I'm just kidding.
Sell 100, give it
I think they are in storage. A lot of them, I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of them didn't survive. The durability of them were challenged. So we actually had to purchase a few more. So I don't really think we have many left.
And on D bullet 4, we've already installed the bipolar ionization units, correct?
Yep.
So we're not going to be doing any more. We could strike that probably, correct?
Yep.
They're already there.
They're already there. They're
Do
already
we
in
have
place.
plans to install more?
Nope.
So we could probably get rid of it.
Sure, we can get rid of that. We we still do provide routine cleaning, and I will tell you, there are times when we have heavy, like this year during a really bad flu episode, we did go in and vital oxide the classrooms twice a week in an effort to kind of mitigate. It's just a disinfectant spray. No, 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 during the cleaning process in the evening. Yeah, kids, here's this mist. Take a big deep breath. Yeah, it's on the, I don't know, list and things of non-toxic items. So
Mr. Stage, how much longer do the ESSER funds last and how much longer are we?
yeah, great question. And then Jenny will have that as part of the budget discussion, but I can tell you, we have until 2024 to exhaust all of our ESSER funds. They just recently extended it. Our plan is to probably work through them this year. Work through the ESSER money this year.
This school year?
No,
or
the
in
a
next-
23,
yeah,
24 school year. I think we'd have, I think
One more.
we
year.
will exhaust them in this next upcoming budget.
Okay.
Jenny's like guaranteed.
Craig and Christine will make those adjustments and they'll get that updated for next week's meeting. All right. We do not have any recommended changes for future board action items.
Yeah, we do have
We
one.
do one? Oh,
Add that van that he reported.
The van I talked about.
got it.
Yeah.
Christine, I missed that one. Thank you. See, we missed one, Christine.
I'll get it.
Yeah, we'll take care of it.
Okay, we are up to visitor comments. Please give your name, the township or borough you represent, the organization which you represent, and the subject matter. It's requested that comments be kept to 3 minutes. Comments relative to private student or employee matters should be directed to the superintendent outside of the meeting. Do we have any visitor comments at this time? Okay. Board communication items. We have our internal transfers for professional and support. We also have the Northern Tier Career Center school year calendar. We have ballots for the election of the IU 17 directors. Everybody has one with you, Christine just said. So if you want to get that back to Christine, please. We have Sunday facility request for use. Field trip requests. And then everybody has the National Honor Society invitation for March 7th at the new gymnasium. And that is all. Our next, is there any board discussion items the board would like to discuss at this time? Okay. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, February 21st at Harlan Row Middle School at 7 p.m. We will have a need for an executive session for legal and personnel. No action will be taken. If there is a motion and a second, we can adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Thank you, Go.